Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast, another special draft edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, joined by my side here without as long of an introduction as per usual by Mr. Brian E. Roach. Brian, what's going on, my homeboy?
It's a beautiful day. It actually is a beautiful day here, and in the Garden State of New Jersey, it is a beautiful day. I may actually have to go hike. I don't know. We'll have to see. Because nothing's going on today, right?
No, nothing at all. Well, nothing of consequence, and you probably could go for a 2 or 3 hour stroll in between the Steelers picks, but we're coming to you. We're coming to you ahead of the day 3 of proceedings, since the day 2 proceedings were a little late, and as you can see, we're all exhausted with the draft process already. I've got my coffee. Brian's got his Red Bull. And, we were a little scatterbrained the night before because we talked about Najee Harris so much that I don't think we talked about him enough, actually. I mean, we talked about him so much leading up to the draft process. By the time that the pick was in, it was like, yeah, okay. It's kind of like knowing your Christmas present as a kid. You found it hidden somewhere. And then you got a fake surprise. That's the way I felt with it. But we didn't talk enough about Najee. The numbers that he put up in college. I mean, we talked about. We all know he could hurdle people. He's a grown ass man running around there at the college game. 6'2", 230.
Yep.
We're fairly certain he was worthy of the first round pick. We're going to get back to that in a second. So there's still people debating all over that. He won the national title twice. He's the Doak Walker Award winner, which is for the top running back in college. That's just recently. He was unanimous All-American, first team SEC, et cetera, et cetera. Plus, he broke some records of some very notable guys that are in the NFL at this moment, that meaning Mark Ingram and Derrick Henry. All-time touchdowns leader at Alabama, correct, I believe. Something like, 57 touchdowns, ran for 4,624 yards, and does not fumble the football either. 3 fumbles and only 1 lost? So there's a lot of other things we forget. Yeah, I mean, we brought up pass protection. That was a big one. We brought up that he could catch the ball. He caught 80 passes during his college career from Mac Jones. Let me tell you.
Boy.
Yeah, well, I like the fact that he went to New England, and then they were doing the comparison of Tom Brady and his body composition. Tom Brady would probably even be like a first or second round pick. How many quarterbacks now? 8 have gone.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's
crazy.
Just everybody's like, you take a quarterback, and everybody thinks the Steelers should have taken a quarterback or done something differently. We prepared everyone for almost this exact scenario, except I was really pushing for a defensive player somewhere in the middle of this, the meat to the sandwich, to the buns of the first and the third round pick. We'll get to the second round pick in a second, but there's still a little bit of debate as to whether or not Najee Harris worth a first-round pick. Well, we see the way that this draft had played out now, right? Yep. I mean, we talked about Etienne going immediately after to the Jaguars. I had discussed I was worried about the Jaguars initially with 3 teams. That was the Jaguars, the Jets, and the Dolphins, because they had a lot of picks to spend. But I was saying to myself, okay, well, the Dolphins still have Myles Gaskin. The Jaguars still had James Robinson. But new regime in Jacksonville, for the very least, and an undrafted guy, do you know that he's still going to produce? Or if you have a chance to add a best player, and that's kind of where the Steelers were at with Najee Harris, too, top running back, right? And then after this, as we see the aftermath of the second and third rounds kind of fall through, Javonte Pookie Williams ends up going to the Denver Broncos pretty early too, with pick 35, like the third or fourth pick in to the second round. And then Trey Sermon ends up at 88, one pick after the Steelers, over to the San Francisco 49ers. And I know we were Buckeyes guys. We were debating if he was a third rounder. Some people were putting him in the second. So, I mean, we kind of pegged that, but that would have been the choice. It was either Najee, where they got him at 24, or bust if they were going to go running back. And
Absolutely.
I'm totally comfortable with that, considering you got your pick of the litter and you got the guy you felt was the top guy.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this. We've talked about it repeatedly up until the draft. I think we for the most part all started out on they must draft an offensive lineman in the first round bandwagon. But as time progressed and you realized the offensive line depth overall is it's better. Yes, it's top heavy still too, but it is solid all the way down. And the running back depth simply wasn't. If you have the opportunity to take what most people would agree is the best guy in the class at that position, knowing you can fill in the other spots as they go along, that's what you do. So, as you do your analysis, as you think about it, you move forward, and you say, that's where we go. And how it's been over a month. We've all sort of gotten to the point where we were like, no, it's going to be Etienne, it's going to be Najee Harris, it's going to be one of those two guys in the first round unless they're gone. I don't think they're going to take Javonte Williams in the first round. And we knew there wasn't going to be 5 running backs in the first round. So
there hasn't even been 5 running backs in the draft.
Yeah, and we're through 3. So There you go.
That guy should be doing something, running around nude or whatever.
Yeah. No, please, nobody should run around nude. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. There are some people out there I wouldn't mind seeing run around nude. It's just they're Halle Berry and Gal Gadot. So,
and for all intents and purposes, depending on their gig, they may have been already. Or
I know some of them haven't. It's good. It's nice. It's a nice thing.
Those superhero or I don't know. Catwoman's kind of can be an anti-hero sometimes. You can't even call her.
Yeah, she's not really a hero. She's she's
villain.
And that wasn't a good movie, but it was a good costume.
Yeah. Hey, I grew up. My thing was the Tim Burton Batmans. Michael Keaton, Tim Burton directing, Jack Nicholson as the Joker, and Michelle Pfeiffer. There's still a lot of guys in my age group that probably go crazy over that patent leather Catwoman outfit for sure. And
he lost me with the Penguin Funeral. Hey,
those two movies. That movie, even though that movie was kind of like a short drop off from the first one, nothing could prepare you for what was coming next with Val Kilmer and George Clooney. That's all I could say. But it felt like you had to have every big name actor kind of throw their hat in the ring in order to be a part of that series. At that time, it was just on fire, including Arnold. And you will freeze, or he just said freeze, but it was great. I loved it. I love that. So for four running backs. We didn't get our banter in to begin.
So
testament. To
we moved our filler 10 minutes in, so now your show start is all screwed up.
You're gonna have to put it twice in there. Yeah, we had a colleague of ours. Oh, geez. I'm not bringing it up, but they said something. It's something insensitive. It got us in the feels about our banter. I was like, really?
Cried myself to sleep last night. It was very sad.
Yeah, very, very sad. So, anyways.
All right.
Anyways, round 2 comes floating around, and I had my favorites. I didn't think Tevin Jenkins was going to be there. He goes to the Bears. That was kind of like pegged. Even in the first round, there were some mocks having him going early to the Bears.
Yeah.
Let me see. I got to stop trying to say but I'm trying to think here too. Creed Humphrey was available, and they passed. And I said, well, They got their. Now, I had even thought Creed Humphrey could be there in the third round, or even Quinn Miners. I had said something about the centers in this draft, maybe 3 on average in the top 100. That was pretty close of a prediction, by the way. Pat myself on the back. But I was looking for Asante Samuel Jr. He did not make it all the way down there. They got close.
He did not.
And let me tell you, the Minnesota Vikings are having a draft that's much akin to the Rams a few years ago when I was mocking players to the Steelers. and quite like 2 or 3 of them ended up with the Rams, and I was like, man, I was just off by a team. But you take a look at the Vikings, a pick before the Steelers, end up with Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle from Virginia Tech, and I said, well, it's definitely got to be Najee Harris. Now, I was thinking maybe, just maybe, it might give them pause, but they said they had 8 guys that they weren't going to move out of that pick for, Brian. So they weren't trading anywhere, up, down, sideways, or otherwise. So it's kind of curious, like, wow, 8. That's there's only 32 picks, so it's like 25% of the pool, in theory, of the top players there that you're not moving around for. So let me see. Well, it wasn't actually the Vikings this time, but it was Dalen Radunz to the Titans, 2 picks ahead of the Steelers at 55, where we were thinking this is going to be a player we don't talk about much. The name did pop up very briefly, I think, in our roundtable show, and that was Pat Freiermuth, the tight end from Penn State, who I consider, and you're going to have to bear with me when I say this because I say the top tight end in the class. Kyle Pitts is just a whole other animal. He shouldn't even be called
different creature.
He isn't even anyone I've been. The problem is the reason when I start thinking about top tight end in the class, absolutely Pitts is. Pitts is like up here, off screen, somewhere up there, and then Freiermuth is here, and then it starts to gradually descend again. It's much like the running backs, although the running backs there was like a consensus 3 and then a drop off. You had Pitts, who you knew there was no chance in hell you were going to get anywhere near sniffing him as a pick. If he made it out of the top 5, even the top 6, we were discussing that. It was only because more quarterbacks were going to go for some insane reason. Teams would have definitely traded up for him if he started to slide into 7 or 8, I guarantee, especially with how willing Carolina has been to move around, and even the Giants, So... Yep. But Pitts is definitely the freak athlete, the complete player, et cetera, but he's probably going to be looked at as like a receiving threat as well, maybe like a, prime Jimmy Graham in the early years or something of that nature. This gentleman from Penn State has a nickname of Baby Gronk, and he's the second tight end off the board. And when the name was announced, I was like, holy smokes, I like this pick. I think you have a little bit of indifference, maybe just because of the round and who was available. For me, I had mentioned this, and my pick was, I was looking like 3rd round Tommy Tremble, Notre Dame. I was looking for a blocking tight end. I had already kind of pitched this, that if the Steelers didn't go offensive line at all in the first 3 picks, running back, corner, and tight end, the pitchforks and torches are going to come out. But the tight end position here, just as important. This is a guy who makes combat catches. He was right up there with Pitts as far as catchable passes. I got to find the stat. It was like 95.5, 96.5%. It was very high. Everything that goes his way that's catchable, he catches. He's capable of yards after the catch. He's a capable and willing blocker. He's a hard-nosed. This guy, I hate making a comp like this because he's the greatest tight end in Steelers history. But you talk about Heath Miller and what the Steelers have been missing since then. I'm not saying that Freiermuth is going to be Heath Miller. Those are some very big shoes to fill. But he should resemble that or bring some of that back that has been missing for the last 5 or so years since Heath has retired. They've not really had and Matt Spaeth was the blocking tight end, retired the same year. They really haven't had the same guy. The bring back Jesse James crew, you had the wrong Penn State guy. We had the wrong Penn State guy. Oh, well, we didn't. I have never said I wanted Jesse James back. He goes down with the breeze, no yards after the catch, not the most capable blocker. So when you lose Vance McDonald, Freiermuth should slide right in here. He's not going to be. He can start in quotations, but we're talking about maybe 30%, 50% of the game, 20, 30 snaps as a rookie, get his feet wet. They still have Eric Ebron. This is very nice balance, and yet another weapon for the Steelers offense that needed to improve.
Yeah, look, I don't want to say lukewarm because that's even too low. I'm not lukewarm. I like the pick. I just don't love the pick as much as I could have.
As much as me.
Yeah. I agree with pretty much everything you've said. I think he's Heath Miller-esque. He certainly is a throwback type tight end, a guy who can catch and block. He's not dynamic as a receiver, right? He is not Kyle Pitts, as we said. He's not Eric Ebron as a receiver. but he's pretty sure-handed. I've seen some reports that he has drops. That doesn't seem to translate to what his stat line looks like. So I don't know. Did I watch Penn State enough? Probably not, because I don't care.
Why would that be, Brian?
Why would I watch Penn State?
I'm so many years old that I remember the Big Ten changing the logo to like an 11 to bring Penn State into that fold, and it's like
absolutely
they still feel a little foreign to me at times. They're definitely not
as bad as Rutgers.
Well,
and I say that living in New Jersey. Okay.
It's such an arms race with all the conferences just exploding and expanding and having divisions and everything. It's crazy,
crazy.
Over the years.
But I agree. He comes in now as probably the best blocking tight end on the roster without question. Can he improve as a blocker? Absolutely. Is he fully developed as a player? No. But who is completely developed coming out of college? That's the whole point. You're going to have some growth as they move to the next level. I think this is a guy that he spot starts. He is the number 2 tight end for this season. If they don't keep Eric Ebron moving forward, he slides right into that role. He's a guy for the future and probably a solid, capable, stable presence that can do what they want to do. This is, again, another signal that their goal in this draft is to rebuild the run game, because this is a guy who's going to help in the run game, not just as a passer. He is going to help in the run game because he is a blocking tight end.
Yes, and we talked about the value of that. Probably once again in the round table when I was talking about Tremble. This is someone that's going to go and seal the edge. They had a big problem with that. There's still folks making fun of the Steelers and lack of offensive line picks, lack of tackle, your faith in a core 4 and Banner and everything. We have no idea what Banner was going to do. He got hurt, and he still has to come off a knee injury, and the Steelers aren't done to making picks yet. They still got 4 more picks to go after this. So I'm not even after this pick, you still had the 3rd round, which we haven't gotten to that gentleman just yet. Lance Zierlein, the guru over at NFL.com, had him comped to Tyler Eifert, by the way. And as long as he stays a healthy, Tyler Eifert was always
not a bad injured all the time Tyler Eifert. We're in good shape.
A healthy Tyler Eifert was probably on his way to a Hall of Fame career. Unfortunately, I mean, he was putting up. You talk about Gronk numbers and baby Gronk. What is Freiermuth's like 6'5"?
I don't like that nickname. By the way, I'm out on that nickname. He needs a better nickname. Baby Gronk makes me want to vomit.
Somebody else had that nickname too, and we've forgotten about it because I don't think they panned out. So I don't. Again, we were talking about Keith Miller, and we're talking about other players. Well, let's talk about Najee again. Okay. Another player, famous Steelers running back with the last name Harris, come to discover, because I didn't know this up front. Middle name is Jerome. So then I had a little bit of fun with it, and I said, well, his full name, actually, he's going to get married to his longtime girlfriend. Her last name is Parker. So they're going to hyphenate the names, and it's going to be Najee Jerome Harris Parker. And his nickname's Bam. So you got it all right there. And,
see, I can deal with that nickname. That's a good Bam is a good nickname.
Bam.
I like that. Bam. It's a John Madden thing. It's like, Bam. Oh, boom. I like
boom. It. Yeah. Boom. Hey, this guy's really good at running the football because he's really good at running the football.
Right. Exactly.
It's like, hey, what I used to love it. I don't know how much you played the Madden video games, but the early 2000s PlayStation 2 ones that they had Pat Summerall in it too, and they had the pre-recorded clips. And Madden had a lot of pre-recorded clips for a lot of players, and it seemed like the big thing was, I'll never forget. It might have been the Washington, formerly the Redskins, had Steven Alexander as a tight end. I think I remember, because it was just one of the more ridiculous comments. I don't remember Madden's quote, but Pat Summerall would always be, "What do you think about Steven Alexander, John?" Well, I think he's this guy that could do this. And that's the way I could picture seeing Pat Freiermuth on the field. I mean, quite frankly, that's what I think is going to end up happening here. I think the official, the draft analysis here was the most complete wide tight end in the draft. That would be the blocking tight end. guys don't come out of college blocking. That was the point I was trying to make from the round table to bring back up here for maybe some of our new viewers or some people that have fallen off and said, I'm not listening to these guys in like March until whatever. This isn't football season. We're going to watch the Pirates be semi-decent. So, not you. What's baseball?
Wait a minute. Football season is 24/7, 365. Come on, let's get over.
I don't have
that's
the
way it
black
is.
and gold shirt today. Sorry. Freiermuth is a nasty inline blocker with the capacity to move defenders in the running game while also flashing enough quickness to climb to the second level. Important there. As a pass catcher, he is a chain mover with soft hands, uncanny knack for getting open between the hashes. The Penn State product should man the position for a decade in Pittsburgh as a Jason Witten-like playmaker over the middle of the field. I like all of that.
Stop. I don't want comparisons to Gronkowski. I don't want comparisons to stupid cowboy guys. No, just I don't like it. Makes me mad.
What about Travis Kelce?
I can get that. I don't like Travis Kelce because he annoys me, but I also don't dislike Travis Kelce. He's not a cowboy and he's not, a patriot. So therefore,
he's still,
I'm okay with it.
He's still douchey. So
I agree with that. That's what I mean. He annoys me, but not as much as the other two. And Jason Witten, just no. First of all, he's a cowboy. Secondly, he is the most boring human being in the world. No.
When you're talking about wanting to watch paint dry over something, it was like that's when you started to put Monday Night Football on mute.
I feel bad. That ball. He caught it and ran.
That's not. That sucks. Color commentary is not his forte. I mean, Tony Romo jumped in there right away and just boom, witty.
Boom.
The quarterbacks tend to be, that, like Phil Simms. I mean, they even got Trent Green in there, and they could snap it off pretty good. But man, he went in there and he just came off as kind of like the dumb jock. He was just like. Anyways, I don't want to belabor Jason Witten there. The Freiermuth pick, yes, it will help the run game. Seal that edge. We were talking about. I started to go there with the core 4 banner, but you had a revolving door with Alejandro Villanueva. No, Vance McDonald wasn't really hurt last year, but he kind of disappeared within that frame too. And it's like I don't know. Now he's retired, so you got a young physical guy here. I think with some of the other physical guys, this is going to be nice. I was always suspecting here, Brian, that the Steelers are high on Banner. Mm-hmm. It may not be as high on a core 4, but a core 4 is going to be the guy. I didn't think that they were going to draft a tackle and have them start. The difference being now is these top 3 picks, I think they're all going to be starters in some way, particularly by the end of the season. We jump to the 3rd round and get a guy. Now, you talk about love and picks. This is one that I saw mocked a lot to the Steelers. I disregarded it. I was looking at the Wisconsin Whitewater kid who was still there, actually.
Mm-hmm. And is still there, I believe.
No. Denver ended up
Did Denver take him? Oh, I went to bed. I didn't care.
You know what? My cousin actually said the same exact thing. It was somewhere near the bottom. Yeah, he was one of the comp picks that picked 98, Quinn Miners, center from Wisconsin Whitewater. So there's a few. Landon Dickerson, they had flashed on the screen as a guard. Even the graphic I put up for us at Steel City Underground on our social media, I put what they're listed as on the NFL draft tracker. He was still listed as a guard. But this was a player that was popping up into conversations. Unlike Dickerson, it's like, well, he's got an injury history. Is he going to be able to play center? Maybe they move him over to guard. This was the opposite. Here's a player who played primarily guard, has played some center, and is an absolute mauler. And we've throw out the guard designation. We already have Mike Tomlin. We have Kevin Colbert and Kendrick Green himself, the player selected 87th overall in the 3rd round by the Pittsburgh Steelers, stating that they're going to work him out as a center, and most of the draft nicks that are out there think that he could be a day 1 starter.
Yeah, this is the pick that I'm the most excited about from yesterday. I love the pick. I love the kid. Did I want Quinn Miners more than I wanted Kendrick Green? Maybe, but not. It's like it's not the end of the world. Here's the difference. This is a Big Ten system. He's coming from a bigger, more pro-ready type offense. And remember, we don't know yet. We simply do not yet know what Matt Canada's running scheme is going to be like. Is it going to be zone heavy? Is it going to be more push ahead? Maybe this is the guy that fits in what they plan to do versus what we all go, okay, that's a great center, but we don't have that same inside knowledge. So while I may think that Quinn is a better overall center prospect, maybe he's not a better overall center prospect for Matt Canada's offense. I'm not going to pretend that I know that because I don't. I don't know what Matt Canada's offense is going to look like. None of us do because we haven't seen it yet, right? So this is, you got to just take it on its face value. This kid, he's a dog, right? He is mean. He could be, when you watch tape and I tweeted some of it out last night, some highlights of him. He just is nasty as a blocker, especially as a run blocker. Yes, he's got to have some work with his pass pro. There's just no question about it. His pass pro is not as good as it could be, and it will need to improve, for him to really take on a full role as a starter and to be the center of the future for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But he's ready to go right now as a run blocker. Boom. He's ready to not. This guy's squatting 700 pounds. All right.
Yeah.
He's got the ham hocks as Chris or as Craig Wolfley would say. He's got the ham hocks and he's got that stuff. So yeah, I'm pumped about this one. This is the one I like. I like the nasty streak that's in there. I like the fact that he's got just a ton of upside. Yes, he's a little smaller guy, but he's quick. He's going to be able to move. He's going to be able to pull. He's going to be able to work into a zone scheme if that's what they choose to do really well. It's a good pick. It's a really good pick at that point, if that's the direction they go. And it just seems like that is what they plan to do. But what do we know?
Well, what do we know? Got a little blurb. Maybe this is where I got the term mauler out of. Okay, it's not something I say a whole lot of. But ham hocks, by the way, also I believe Gorilla Monsoon, a pro wrestling guy, old school pro wrestling commentator. Yeah, play-by-play. Stop it. You had the Macho fan on the stage.
I'm still convinced that they actually thought it was him for a while.
You have to be a moron, as Rich Eisen had said. If you're watching,
he's
NFL
dead, right?
Yeah, it's been a decade, and man, I was crushed. Actually, what happened was a heart attack while driving, and I think he hit like a tree or a pole or something. He was in his early 60s. So
rest in peace to him. Yeah. I don't care. I mean, I'm sorry for him and his family 10 years ago, but and sorry for you then, but I don't care.
But Rich Eisen, everybody else came out and was like, "Yeah, I'm a wrestling fan." And that warms the cockles for me. I could see you over there like Rich Eisen. Just
shut up. I'm just shut up. I'm tired of it. Get him off the stage.
Like something that
not offended. I don't care. Right? I don't care enough to be. Plus, wasn't he up there for the Browns? Who cares?
Well, yes, and here's a story about that guy. He's all over. He was on the ESPN app, and they showed him, I think, on SportsCenter and stuff. I actually know his sister. Going back to my hometown in Youngstown, Ohio, one of the suburbs.
Here's the question, though: do you know his sister?
I can neither confirm nor deny. She was very easy on the eyes, and if that information ever gets out, I'm probably going to get smacked around. Let me tell you. So, but her brother has been doing that for the longest time, and I'd seen him up there. Him and the Pumpkinhead guys. I'll say this much for the NFL: they got it right with the fans they put on the stage, at least for those picks or some of the picks, because those guys have been diehards. Every time I've been there for a Steelers game, and I've been there for a couple other games too, they have been through thick and thin. There might not be anybody else there. It might be pouring down rain. Those guys are truly diehards if you're going to dress yourself in ugly orange and brown to begin with. But with how miserable and bad those teams have been, I felt good for them. I pointed them out in the crowd in a group chat with some of my friends that are some Browns fans. I was like, hey, he made it there. I didn't know he was going to get up on stage like a half hour later, and it was like, holy crap. They're just not going to shut up about this. So that was kind of cool. By the way, they played Dancing Queen again during one of the picks. And
I saw that. I'm like, what the? Get some. Yeah, I mean, I guess they got variety in their repertoire for the house band. I don't. But ABBA, come on, the ABBA.
Yeah, and I wish I could pipe it in here. It might be. It might get us flagged for copyright. But
DMC?
yes.
DMC.
Was that not one of the greatest things you've ever seen in your life? And he knew he was in front of the hostile crowd there
awesome.
in Cleveland. And I don't know if there's a way to I'd like to pipe this in. If you haven't found it, we retweeted it. It's on the Pittsburgh Steelers Twitter. But the actual Daryl McDaniels of Run DMC, he went up and did this short little rap about how great it was to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. He had another guy that was with him. Maybe it was his son or something. I'm not sure. Holding a terrible towel. They're waving terrible towels. He's got full black and gold regalia on. And he knew. This was, you talk about pro wrestling, this was straight out of like the Ric Flair playbook or something like that. He went up there to cut what they call a promo interview and incite a riot, which was absolutely fantastic. So you go from the macho fan to you have to do that. You're like, the only reason I wasn't disgusted with it was because I know the people, you know what I mean? I don't really know the macho fan directly, but I bumped into him once or twice. But, having that connection, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool for him. But Run DMC Daryl, oh my goodness, that was just fantastic. I thought
it was great.
As opposed to Franco Jason Witten Harris, the most somber, soft-speaking. With
Franco, I mean, if you've met Franco, that's just the way he is.
I know. He's gentle. Not even giant, but he's just.
No, he's just a very low-key, gentle kind of guy. It was a lot for him to go, I thank all my friends and my wonderful friends. That was like the most sarcastic remark that Franco probably has uttered in a long time.
No, it really wasn't.
Hilarious.
He was just at an Italian restaurant in Cleveland. He tweeted it out. He was the day before on the first night of the draft. He's like, I do have friends in Cleveland with the photo or whatever. So that actually wasn't. He wasn't kidding about that. He brought that up, mentioning it again. He was throwing a shout out to someone, but he's definitely the guy you would want if you're moving furniture to carry all the glass items out of your home. Nothing's going to get broken.
Nothing's going to get broken.
No, not at all. It's very, very nimble with that. So by the time most of the folks are going to listen to this program, I imagine, with it running into the weekend and the third day of the draft, I don't know that we really talk much about targets or specific players because it'll all be a moot point. You already know who they are by the time you hear this analysis we're not going to come back to the second and third round guys here, but I think the Steelers overall, so second time ever in Mike Tomlin's history, posed this question at steelcityunderground.com. If you follow some of the op-eds that are up on there, I said, could they go offense with all three of the first round picks? Once again, because they only did it once with the defense back when they took Artie Burns, Sean Davis, and Javon Hargrave. I questioned whether or not a corner would be slid in there or whatever. And we talked about tight end. And I think this is great, Brian, because okay, what was there? There was 4 actual centers I think they had listed here that went. Landon Dickerson at 37. The Packers took Josh Myers out of Ohio State early. I don't know. I was calling him Billy Myers. I'm starting to get him confused with Billy Price, who used to be there at Ohio State. So Josh Myers at 62 and Creed Humphrey immediately at 63. The Chiefs have really been working hard to try and get their offensive line going because they got one. They have to invest there.
It was a mess.
Yes. Yeah, well, the rest of the money invested in
going to get Pat Mahomes killed.
Yeah. It's just so and then Quinn Miners goes after. So if you count Kendrick Green in there, I don't think there were any other guards that they're looking at as part of this, but you had 5 basically in the top 100, which was for the class for not being a first round selection. Quite a few there. So but almost on trajectory with what I was saying, because Miners was there at 98. Ticked off my friend who's a Broncos fan because the Broncos traded back. He was ready to see the pick and shut it off and go to bed early. They had the very last pick in the third round, so he had to wait up for the extra picks that were coming in. So as far as targets, if I had to guess, the Steelers are definitely going to grab a tackle somewhere. They looked at guys that are someplace. They may even do it twice. There's still 4 picks that we see on the board. I think linebacker is without a doubt the other thing, and you want a punter. Why not? 7th round, go grab
Drew Chrisman. It's Drew Chrisman time. Telling you.
Might be. But there will be teams that probably take a punter in the 6th round too.
There will be some. Won't be us, but there will be some.
No. Steelers, no 5th round pick, two fours, and 2 7s, and do they have a 6th round pick still?
I'm pretty sure they do.
6. So 5 picks still to go. I'm sorry.
And just to clarify, there was a lot of people. Somebody erroneously posted that we moved up in the draft to get Kendrick Green. That we traded up. We did not. We did not. Just to be clear, everybody out there who thinks we somehow traded up, we did not. I saw that chain going on Twitter, and I'm like, no, dudes, we did not trade up. No.
There was a little bit of rumbling as to them kind of sniffing around to move up in the draft. The Browns ended up doing that. I think the Browns got a little spooked that Jeremiah Owasu Koromoa. I'm almost there. I'm not quite ever going to say it, but just to spell it out for everyone, kind of like a hybrid linebacker. I think they got a little spooked that the Steelers were maybe going to go there in the 2nd round, and a lot of people had him mocked to the Browns in the 1st round. So I know a lot of my friends in Cleveland are happy. The Ravens draft. The Ravens always draft well. It just doesn't seem to have the punch or the impact of previous years, in my opinion. And the Bengals, they're just getting roasted right now. It's just like, well, I guess Joe Burrows will just run for his life. So
I don't actually have I think the Browns are having a solid draft.
Yeah.
I think they're doing a good job. I think the Ravens are being the Ravens. I don't love their draft, but I don't hate their draft, and I think it fills needs. I don't know what the hell's going on with Cincinnati.
Well, I had to look this up. So Jamar Chase, 5th overall. Did they think they weren't going to get him later, or at least how many wide receivers were still there at 46 when they took Jackson Carman, who I don't know. Some people had him like ranked like 15th or something like that. In fact, a lot of the
it's an offensive lineman, so I'll say at least you took one. But
yeah,
I don't know.
And I understand.
We'll see.
They got some guys coming off of injury. They signed Riley Rife, so they got their own plans, and that's fine. And maybe we're completely off base and wrong with it, but we're not the only ones saying these things. So that's
true. And I'm a little annoyed that the Browns took Anthony Schwartz.
Yes, that was the one I was about to bring up.
I'm annoyed.
Greg Newsome, JOK, and then Anthony Schwartz, probably the fastest player in the draft at 91. Another guy that we thought could maybe be a 4th round target for the Steelers. So going into this, Brian, obviously we said linebacker. We say there's some more offensive linemen coming. There's probably going to be a pick here that's going to they're going to throw a bone to Danny Smith with one of these 5 picks. That'll be
the linebacker type guy. It'll be a special teams contributor that's a linebacker type. I think.
And I have names, but I'm not going to say it because by the time maybe you hear this, it'll be wrong. So I think we've been pretty cumulative here in everything, but in summation, top running back, just about the top tight end. You take Pitts off of there, so the first 2 picks right there.
Yeah, you can't do that though. They got the top available tight end. I'll say that.
Jimmy Graham was trying to not get paid as a tight end, so that's where I'm sticking with it. So, top blocking tight end, that's fine, but there were no other tight ends taken. So, if the
top available tight end at the position at the time, that's what I'm going with. Not even
a top available because you're going all the way to 55. I'm going to say the second best tight end in the draft. So, top running back, at least one of the top 3 running backs. You got one of the top tight ends, and you've got a center, and I understand, if you lump them in with the other 4 that are designated as the position, there's 5 different guys that are there, 3 that went ahead, a few that we've mocked to the Steelers, but this is the one that may be the best fit for the scheme. So you can't be upset. They're filling the positions of need, and they do this the same way as we said, where they sign free agents. The only area they didn't sign a free agent was tight end, and they're not cutting Eric Ebron. He's not going anywhere. It's almost like when you talk about safety with Terrell Edmonds and Minkah Fitzpatrick. You got 2. They might be both listed as the same position, but it's 2 different defined roles. They're going to be 2 different flavors, your chocolate and your vanilla, so to speak, of the tight end ice cream. How about that analogy? Every now and then you get the swirl. That would be the Kyle Pitts player, so who is extremely rare, and that's why he's the highest drafted tight end of all time.
Yep.
And hopefully it lives up to that billing. There's no reason to think he wouldn't be when you see that spider chart. They do like the circular chart with all the zigs and zags. I think his is just a complete circle. It's he's just unbelievable. And I didn't have a chance to gush over him, so now I'm going to do it now that I know he's not a Cincinnati Bengal. But anyway, I think the Steelers covered a lot of their needs, and then some of the depth and development pieces are coming into place now. Some of these players, you're going to be able to pan the pick. You're going to say, oh, this is terrible or whatever. But more than likely, these are the guys that are either going to have to fight for their roster spot, may not be part of this 53 practice squad, especially when you're talking about maybe the two seventh-round picks. Should they hold on to both of them and not move up? Or
unless you're
like
Drew
that.
Chrisman. In which case, then he's got a shot.
Yeah, if it's a specialist, then that's kind of like, kickers and punters or long snappers. So we're not going there. But
No.
they have a better shot of making the team, but it's not something that any of the 32 franchises are looking to just, unless you're Tampa Bay years ago, throw like a high pick at. So, Brian, any closing thoughts on thus far the 2021 Steelers draft class?
Okay. My opinion on draft grades, which is much the same as my opinion on mock drafts, in that they're stupid and you can't trust them for several years. But if somebody forced me to pull a trigger on a draft grade for this group so far, it's top tier. I'm very happy with what they've done. I'm not going to say A, B, C, D, E, or F, but I'd say this is in the A range. How about that? There'll be people. There's always contrarians out there who are going to complain, right? But we won't really know, and for several years, how this is going to pan out. I like the fact that they got the top running back that we all sort of agree was the top running back in the draft. I like the idea that they got the best blocking tight end in the draft, second best overall tight end in the draft. And for where they ended up picking, a guy who probably is, a potential starter. Maybe not the same caliber as they've had at center for years and years and years, but a guy who is legitimately able to continue the legacy of solid, good center play for potentially the next 10 years. We'll see. What do I look forward to? I think the 2 4th-round picks that they have, there's a chance to make some hay there because there's still guys available. 6th and 7th round, my opinion. It's a crapshoot. If you get lucky, you get lucky. But most of those guys are practice squad fodder and may not make the team unless your name's Drew Chrisman. Drew Chrisman time. It's Drew Chrisman time. That's what I'm just telling you. I want Drew Chrisman to be drafted.
or our Blitz Analytics draft scout on our staff as well, Ryan Lippert, who's a big Kentucky guy. He wants the punter from Kentucky, and you just rolled your eyes at that in his mock draft. It was one of his. It really wasn't. I think he only did. I think Ryan only did 4 rounds, but he had him as his late round targets and his final thoughts kind of look like conclusions. So, but no, going back to Kendrick Green, it's got to make you feel good because you already have B.J. Finney in the fold.
Yeah.
You have someone that started for the Steelers at center and left guard. Like I said, the old Ramon Foster spot. I've felt, I won't be upset about this by any means. If Kevin Dotson outright wins left guard, I always felt
I'll be thrilled.
He would be DeCastro's replacement on the right, but we know what he's capable of and the kind of pick he was last year. That's what Kendrick Green is this year. That's a thought I wanted to get out there as well. But you got to feel really, really good about the guard center depth now. And even with Hassenauer still kind of hanging around, maybe he's ends up being a practice squad guy that they could call up on game days, depth or whatever. But he might be the 4th guy or whatever, 5th guy. But they've got enough there, including some of the other free agents that they've got, journeyman guys and whatever else that they ended up signing this offseason. Nothing that was like a giant highlight. But the big highlight on Kendrick Green, I almost forgot when you said grades and draft grades. I got to get this in before we put a wrap on this show. This was... I'm going to give some credit to the tweeter. Can we say tweeter? Is that an official thing that we could say? Kent Lee Platt at MathBomb on Twitter. Navy veteran, math junkie, football nut, NFL analytics director and applications development for the PFN at PFN 365 and creator of RAS, of course, PFN Pro Football Network. And what is RAS? This is the relative athletic score. And for Kendrick Green, this is athletic testing on a scale from 0 to 10. We're talking about a third-round pick that's going to be going from listed as a guard going to center. And you're thinking to yourself, come on, guys. You're blowing a lot of smoke on stuff like this. Kevin Colbert, no clue. These guys are so out of touch. I hear all of the negative Nancy's that are out there. They really blew this draft. They should have really got Kendrick Green. Kevin Colbert and company, they look at players with certain intelligence, high pedigree, et cetera, et cetera. The relative athletic score, the RAS for Kendrick Green, is a 9.23 out of a possible 10-0, okay? That might not mean much. We're just rattling numbers. But out of 1,152 guards that were graded between 1987 to present day 2021, okay, 34 years or so, Google says. I had to look that up. Almost 35. Kendrick Green, okay, 1,152 guards graded in 34 years, ranks 90 of 1,152 with that 923. 90. I mean, it's not even the top 10% percentile. He's higher than that. So what is that? Probably 7%, top 7%, 8%. That's off the top of my head. I'm not the math bomb here, so I'm not the math guru. I'm not Rain Man here rattling off numbers. But that just goes to show you the quality type of player and the type of human beings, too. We always hear the draft stories, Najee Harris doing the thing at an old homeless shelter, boys shelter, or whatever boys club that he used to be at when he was a youth, and already giving back and running uphill and downhill back ways, 6 feet of snow. There was something like that too, where his flight was canceled and he drove back to see all of his teammates at the pro days and stuff. And he didn't think otherwise of it. And I don't know. I didn't hear much on Freiermuth, but I'm sure he has some cool story that's gonna surface over the next couple of days too.
Here's the two names that I'm going to throw out there. I'm going to throw these two out there as potential fourth pick, and just because James Hudson, tackle out of Cincinnati.
Okay.
If he doesn't go soon, or Stone Forsythe, although I think Forsythe will be gone before the Steelers pick in the fourth. But those are two tackle prospects that they could target, and I really like James Hudson as a developmental tackle.
The one I've been eyeballing is Cameron McGrone, a linebacker out of Michigan. So I'll toss my name in the hat with one. And for that, Brian, thanks for joining me, my friend. People are. I'm still looking here on the Twitter, and I had to go. I'm going back because there were so many retweets made from my personal account and the SCU one over the last 2 days, and I wanted to give credit and pull up some of these cool stories and stats. And we only had 2 picks to talk about here, 3 overall if you include Najee at the beginning, and we're going to have more to discuss. We'll be coming back to you, I don't know, sometime really soon. We'll have the final thoughts on the latter half, Day 3 of the Pittsburgh Steelers draft, maybe a cumulative look, and we're also going to have undrafted free agents to talk about sometime early next week as well, because those are the players. A lot of times you find your Mike Hiltons, your Alejandro Villanuevas, some of it's after when camps and there's cuts and stuff like that, the Rosie Nixes, but you still have some of these players, Ramon Foster, another very famous undrafted, and probably the most famous most famous undrafted, obviously, Donnie Shell.
Undrafted to the Hall of Fame.
When they had 50 rounds, no less. Yeah. So there's no excuse for
6
it.
billion rounds, yeah. Crazy.
But with just the 7 rounds here, Willie Parker, probably modern era. So you're still going to find players outside of this process, so don't freak out. There are guys who fall through the cracks for whatever reason. There's things that everyone's trying to measure or figure out, medicals, athleticism, small colleges, competition, and these guys still will get an invite, they'll get a look, and they may ascend to a prominent role. Duck Hodges, another one. Although
Alejandro Villanueva.
Well, I thought I mentioned Big Al.
Did you? I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
Sometimes you talk and I forget.
Well, no, there's some. It's okay. I mean, there's guys like that. The same thing with Rosie Nix. You just don't pay attention to me. That's the problem.
Sometimes.
Kent State product. He was a defensive tackle. The Falcons were trying to. I think they were still trying to use him as like a nose tackle. He was kind of undersized for that, and they play the Falcons in the preseason. They look across the field. They evaluate the tape. They see this guy, and man, we could maybe make him a fullback, and they did, and things like that.
I got to throw this in now because it made me laugh so bad.
All right.
Kendrick Green was asked because he started as a defensive tackle, right? Mm-hmm. He was a defensive guy. He was asked by one of the interviewers, why did you switch? What was about that? He goes, I was not very good at defense.
At least he's honest,
That was awesome. It was a great quote. I loved it.
You get a lot of that. I mean, TJ Watt was a tight end, so
yeah.
It's going to happen. I mean, I guess if you're talented, and it's a kudos to coaching staffs that end up finding the proper fit for these young talents. No matter what the level of play is, that's still pretty cool because sometimes it is the square peg in the round hole. So, anyways, that'll do it for us, folks. If you're on YouTube, keep the comments coming. We like reading most of them, 90% of them. And then we love you big time or something that's like in there, and I have to report it all the time. So they're not listening anyways. Those are just
they're just bots. Spamming us with porn.
Which I plead the fifth. Anyway, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're somewhere else, like over on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, or we're everywhere.
We love you guys too.
Yeah,
we love you too.
Yeah, leave a review. We like it too. And in fact, if you come to one of the other platforms, shoot us a message. I'm kind of curious where you're listening from. Because some of the podcasting stuff is a crapshoot statistically. We know how well we do, and we know whoever else was saying, nobody listens to your dumb show. We heard one of those the other day, too, and it was just like, I ignored it because it's like, hey, I got the numbers here. There are people that do, and we really do appreciate you. So thanks for supporting Steel City Underground. My name's Joe Kuzma. His name is Brian E. Roach. We'll get more draft stuff to you in the coming days, but until then, we still encourage you to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.